And on the trains, Chiltern Railways and cross-country services are disrupted between High Wycombe and Gerrards Cross, and between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Your views.
Just to be clear, my viewers are frustrated.
Your voice.
Lots of you guys getting in touch.
Your perspective.
Before these two start fisticuffs.
Your issues.
What is the official party line?
Your concerns.
Do you agree with that?
Your show.
Are you keeping up? Good.
I'm so excited to be back this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Jubes & Co. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News.
Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
Thank you, GB News!
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Wednesday the 25th of August. We're live across the United Kingdom. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Breaking news this morning, your energy bills will rise by £60 from October. But remember when the Prime Minister said this just last month.
But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
Migrant crime cover-up. Outrageous this. 11 families of victims have written to the Justice Secretary demanding he publishes the full scale of foreign offending in England and Wales, and this government is going to go to court to try to resist it.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can.
Well, tributes pour in from around the world for the country music icon Dolly Parton, who's died aged 80. The Prime Minister says she leaves behind a legacy of great music that people will treasure forever.
And is the Russian bear ready to bite? Britain's been warned of a big threat incoming after showing that increased military support for Ukraine.
And will there be a raid on retirement? A left-wing think tank calls for older people to be targeted in a wealth tax raid to prop up the public finances and to take the burden off younger generations.
Labour on the lay-by. Pregnant women are being offered classes on how to give birth in a car after their nearest maternity ward in Devon was closed temporarily. Can you believe that?
Well, this morning, Reform's Robert Jenrick will set out his plan to rescue small businesses across the country.
You wouldn't believe it from the national debate in Parliament behind me, but small businesses are the absolute lifeblood of our economy.
20's plenty. Birmingham is gearing up to become England's first 20-mile-an-hour city as the council says cars must no longer dominate street life.
£20 It's killed London, and so many people in London have had their licences taken away because they've exceeded 20 miles an hour by maybe just 2 miles an hour a few too many times.
Yeah, and
it's just a money-making scheme.
It's a money-making. It's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what's going to happen in Birmingham, our second city. The council, of course, is bankrupt.
Yeah, well, it's a good way for them to make money then.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Lib Dem council, all green. Why do so many politicians loathe the motorist?
I don't know. I think it's they're scratching around for something to do. And it's a common bugbear, isn't it? People thinking either speeding or bad parking or antisocial driving. And, you know, these things are a problem, but it doesn't necessarily mean we need lots more regulation. But that seems to be the temptation of councillors.
Lots of London is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, but actually the actual average speed is more like 4 miles an hour.
So congestion
has turned London into a car park.
That's right. Well, let us know what you think.
Lord
Khan, of course, to give him his proper title, as we do on this show. Send your views and comments, especially if you live in Birmingham, by visiting gbnews.com/your say.
First, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 9:30. The headlines this morning: Dolly Parton is being remembered as a once-in-a-lifetime star after her death at the age of 80. Representatives say the country music icon died after facing a brief battle with cancer. Tributes have poured in from around the world, with Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mick Jagger, Taylor Swift and Beyoncé all honouring her music, generosity and legacy. Households here are facing higher energy bills this winter after Ofgem raised its price cap by 4% to a 3-year high. The average annual bill will rise by £60 to £1,723, just as families start using more heating. At least 15 newborn babies have died after a fire broke out in a hospital in Pakistan. Officials say the blaze started in an air conditioning unit at a hospital in Islamabad before spreading through the maternity ward. Sainsbury's supermarkets offering 10,000 work experience places to help tackle the youth unemployment crisis. Andy Burnham says employers must close the gap between the classroom and the workplace and is urging more businesses to follow Sainsbury's lead. And after weeks of heat and drought, parts of England and Wales are now being warned to brace for thunderstorms. The Met Office says there is a small chance of fast-flowing or deep floodwater causing danger to life. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup with the news at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
This is an extraordinary story. 11 families of victims of crimes carried out by migrants have written to the Justice Secretary, Alex Norris. They're demanding that the government publishes the data revealing the full scale of foreign offending in England and Wales from 2018 to 2024. And Norris is threatening to go to court to stop it happening.
Well, the victims and survivors include a 14-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted by an Ethiopian asylum seeker staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping.
And also the family of Rhiannon White, a hotel worker who was stabbed to death by a Sudanese national in Walsall.
Well, the government is being accused of covering up the data, which is an allegation they deny. The government says protecting the public is our priority. We're committed to supporting victims of all crimes, including through our record £550 million funding package for victim support services. We do not comment on live legal proceedings.
Well, it feels like a cover-up to me. I wonder what you think. We're going to talk now to Siobhan White, who is the mother of Rhiannon White, who was murdered by that Sudanese migrant while working at a hotel housing asylum seekers. Good morning to you, and I know it's some time ago, but can we just extend our condolences to you and your family? How do you feel about the fact the government if necessary, will go to court to stop families like you getting the information you feel you're entitled to?
It's diabolical. It's like they're constantly denying what's going on and what's gone on. I mean, you know, with the new brochures they put out, they know that people are at risk. So instead of protecting them, they're just giving them out brochures and expect these illegals to read them. They don't care.
This is the Home Office publishing that information, saying that rape is a crime here and could be punishable by prison, and saying that women have to be respected. An admission, isn't it, that the government knows some of these migrants.
They know they're a danger, and that's the sad reality of it. Instead of, you know, stopping, detaining, deporting, they'd rather spend thousands on publishing stupid documents that mean nothing.
Now, Siobhan, we already have some statistics, for example, on sex crimes. We know that Afghan migrants, for example, are around 20 times more likely to commit sex crimes than British nationals. But there are huge black spots in the data, and so far all we have to go on is information from similar countries like the Netherlands and Denmark, which have got more defined statistics. What do you think the government is afraid of in publishing the data linking crime to nationality?
I don't know. I think that's something we'll probably never know. I think if our government should be protecting women and children and the men of this country. There is definitely something there. Definitely something very weird going on, that they seem too scared to protect us. They'd rather, just like I said, you know, they deny the amount of sexual attacks, rapes, murders, and then they hand out these stupid pieces of paper. But I don't know. It seems very weird. It seems like they are scared of something coming out.
Now, obviously, the way that Rhiannon died was just absolutely appalling, and I know her suffering went on for some time. But before she was attacked that night, did she ever express any fear to you in the preceding days and weeks about what she was experiencing, what she was worried about?
No. Just the day before, when one of the migrants was drunk and had shouted at Rhiannon about some biscuits. But from what we believe, that was sorted. He apologised. She never gave us any reason. Rhiannon was a bit naive. She didn't really see the dangers in people. But no, nothing prior to that. But she was a bit concerned because they were drinking, and then outside they were, you know, doing drugs. That kind of bothered her a little bit. But this person in particular, no, she didn't. They didn't know each other.
And what was she like, your daughter? She was only 27, far too young to lose her. What was she like?
You know what? Rhiannon was quirky. She just wanted to help everybody. She wanted to be nice to everybody. She didn't have a bad bone. She was a mom, she was an auntie, she was a sister, and most importantly, she was my daughter. But she wasn't a bad girl at all, no.
So the other...
I was going to say, and how is her child?
He's okay. He's living with his auntie. He's okay. He has good days. He has bad days. But we protect him as much as we can. But you know, he's going to grow up and look online and see the how bad it really was, and that's our concern. But at the moment, we protect him.
Yeah, because he was only 5, wasn't he, when he lost his mum?
He was only 5. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he said he wants to be a brain doctor now to help people. Because when myself and Alex told him, we said that she had a poorly brain.
Yeah.
And she couldn't be saved, and he screamed, and he ran round. I need my vitamins, and we said no, it's a bad man hurt him.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I want to be a brain doctor to help.
Yeah.
Oh, God love him. What a splendid little boy. Just tell us about the families are going to continue to push now to have this data released. And even if the government does go to court, but you are going to fight the government.
Yeah, I'll be fighting every step of the way. I mean, there's days where I get knocked back and I don't feel like doing anything, but I'm in the Home Office next week.
Right.
I've just started, the petition's just come out for Rhiannon. But yeah, myself and my family will be fighting every step of the way.
Can I ask as well, he got the killer who, it was a frenzied attack, he got 29 years. He could be out in 15, 14 years. Do you think he should have got a whole life sentence?
I don't think he'll get parole. So he'll actually do 27 years.
Okay.
Because he served a year and a half on remand or whatever.
Right.
The judge doesn't seem to think that he'll get parole. But my only concern now is with this 30% off their records, whatever.
Yeah.
That's my concern. Because I believe he's done it before and I believe he'll come back and do it again.
Now, Rhiannon, if you're... sorry, I do apologise. Siobhan, I do apologise. If you're successful and you manage to persuade the government or force the government to publish this data, how would you like them to use that data? Would you want them to use it to inform immigration policy, for example? There's some countries in the world where we should just not be offering visas.
Yeah, that's exactly what they've got to do. I mean, you know, I was watching someone online last night who's actually infiltrated the boat. And, you know, there's more Iranians coming in. You know, the countries, they keep saying they're war-torn countries. They're not. Majority of them are not. Like Morocco now is invading Spain. I think it needs to be a worldwide thing. I think they need to focus on not just England, Europe, and the protection. So, yeah, it needs to be put out there.
Well, best of luck with your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll be following it closely.
Yeah. And I think most people watching, listening to GB News will be with you 100%, Siobhan.
Thank
so
you,
I really,
that.
very best of luck, and we'll keep in touch with you.
Well, Siobhan White there, the mother of Rhiannon White. Andrew, the government is so insistent in so many areas on having data and transparency. It doesn't make sense at all that on this one area they're not willing to release the information.
It's also politically tone deaf.
Yeah. To
really
oppose
is.
it.
Yeah. And to say, actually, we'll go to court, take these families to court to stop this information being released. What are they scared of releasing? They will know how many crimes there were. Is it because there's so many? They think it will cause public unrest? Indeed,
and that's certainly been the case in the past when they've covered up things like the grooming gang offences. They don't want rioting and unrest, and you can, in a way, understand that instinct if you're responsible for law and order. But the problem is the longer you cover these things up, the more chance there is of serious unrest in the country. And actually, we live in a democracy. People have got the right to know these things and to vote accordingly. But, yeah, I mean, other countries, Netherlands, Denmark, they're publishing this data. They're using it to inform their asylum and immigration policy. We should be doing it too.
And she died the most brutal death.
I know, it was absolutely
repeatedly stabbed with a screwdriver.
Absolutely hideous. You just cannot imagine. And, of course, it is true there are British-born criminals in this country, but we're responsible for those. We're not responsible for people who come from other countries. We can prevent those crimes by having strong borders.
A week goes by now without a story about a migrant, often an illegal migrant, involved in a vile attack, often on women.
That's right. Well, still ahead, our energy bills are rising to their highest price in 3 years later this year.
And up next, tributes from around the world pour in for the music icon Dolly Parton, who's passed away at the age of 80. She really was a legend. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there. It's hot across central parts of Europe, especially across Italy next few days. Meanwhile, thundery downpours will affect large parts of France as well as central areas. And we've got some showery rain pushing through the Canary Islands, but the more unsettled weather will move into Portugal and Spain during Thursday and Friday. Heavy rain, strong winds as thunderstorms across France and Germany continue. And it's going to be very unsettled through central and western parts of Europe as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
A tetraplegic veteran is embarking on a 79-mile journey in an off-road wheelchair to prove that life can still be extraordinary.
Yes, Danny Mayer, who served in the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards in Iraq, was paralysed from the neck down after a motorcycle accident 6 years ago.
Well, the 41-year-old Glaswegian is now preparing to travel the Great Glen Way in Scotland, of course.
Feeling nervous now, being just a month from it. Stand by my idiotic phrase. Definitely that's starting to approach me a little bit more. Hopefully a little bit more inspiring by the end of the journey, but I'm feeling like, you know, as most people do when they take on a challenge, or at least something that's out of their reach, maybe a little chaotic.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
There's also a big issue with pigeons in Norwich, but the Greens are not allowing them to be culled. They're supported by a group called Peck Savers, which I think is rather good. And somebody turned up at a council meeting dressed as a pigeon. And you just think, wait a minute, you know, the world's on fire, there are various wars around the place, and they're obsessing about how to deal with pigeons. It does seem quite bizarre, their priorities. But they have proposed pigeon contraception. What? I would like to see that in action. Yeah. I would like to see somebody try and... this is a family show, but I cannot understand how that would happen. But it does seem to me that their priorities are completely upside down.
That's what some Green councillors have advocated.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Royal Navy was the most powerful navy in the world at that time. That was really the bigger ships, the sort of capital ships they're called. When it came to small ships, we really weren't. And especially minesweepers, there was something like 30 sweepers to protect 20,000 miles of coastline. So Churchill, as First Lord of the Admiralty, realised quickly something needed to be done, and he mobilised what became known as the Royal Naval Patrol Service, rather a dry name. But he requisitioned 200 trawlers, deep-sea trawlers from Grimsby, Hull, all those big sort of fishing ports, and their crews. And they were fish holes were turned into mess decks. Fishing nets were removed, replaced by sweeping gear.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, the legendary country singer Dolly Parton has died at the age of 80 following a brief battle with cancer.
She spent over 65 years in the music industry performing some of the country's biggest ever hits, including 9 to 5, Jolene, and I Will Always Love You, and Islands in the Stream. Here she is speaking all the way back in 1982.
How do you think you're going to be remembered, let's say, 100 years from now?
Remembered? Well, I think probably what I'd like for people to say about me 100 years from now is, boy, she looks great for her age.
Now, Angie, you did actually go and see the great Dolly Parton in concert. What was that like?
I saw it at the O2. I can't remember how many years ago it was, maybe 10 years ago. It was extraordinary. It was electrifying. She absolutely owned the O2. Wow. People loved her. And her range was extraordinary. And you realise how many songs she'd written for other people. I Will Always Love You, of course, one of the biggest hits of all time. And she just had this infectious personality. And remember, she came from a dirt poor background. Yeah. And what an extraordinary woman. And I don't think she ever really got over the death of her husband 18 months ago. They were married for 59 years.
Yeah, which especially in that industry is quite impressive.
Carl, and he was her rock and her stay. A bit like the Queen and Prince Philip.
Yes.
Very similar.
And I was reading this morning, she was one of 12.
Yeah.
And she grew up sleeping on straw mattresses in a farm. That's how poor they were.
Really were.
Wow, what a change in her life.
Yeah. And, of course, she gave a lot of her money away, and she created a library for children so they could get books from sort of a baby to 5 years old. She gave so much away. She was a brilliant woman. Well, let's talk to Suzanne Baum, who's a lifestyle and celebrity editor. Suzanne, I loved her, and I thought she was fantastic in films as well, such as 9 to 5 and Still Magnolias. What did you make of her? Why did people love her so much?
Well, everyone loved her, and I'm dressed in tribute today because there's been so many quotes, you know, about she loved her living life in colour, dream big, have big hair. I just think she was a colourful character. And just going back to what you said, one of her quotes, another one was, she wants to be remembered not for her looks, but her books. Because as you just said, she donated so many books because her father was illiterate, so she just knew the importance of reading for children. And I've just got Jolene singing in my head ever since I knew, you know, that she died.
I love that quote from her too, saying, it cost a lot of money to look this cheap. So self-deprecating, wasn't she?
Yeah, and also I didn't realise, you know, that she donated so much money for the COVID vaccine, I think $1 million. And then she went live on camera having the Moderna vaccine. And instead of singing Jolene, she sang it to vaccine, you know, in a bid to encourage people to have it. So vaccine, vaccine, which was lovely. And also fans, just so you know, if they don't know, there's going to be a Broadway show of her on December the 7th. On her 81st birthday, they're opening up a show in Broadway. So that will be a sellout, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, Suzanne, often these days musicians get pinned to a particular part of the political spectrum, but Dolly Parton was quite unique in that she appealed to people across all different viewpoints. How do you think she managed that?
Well, also, Trump apparently invited her twice to receive an award. I mean, look, you can see there exactly that, which is quite ironic that he's lowered the flag today, apparently, for 6 days. And also Biden, I think, asked her to come, but she said to receive an award. But each time she said she didn't want to be caught up in any political agenda, which I think was another reason people loved her.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting that we've had tributes from Donald Trump. Equally, we've had tributes from Hillary Clinton, who Trump beat for the presidency the first time round.
Yeah, exactly that.
Now, Suzanne, did she have any struggles in her personal life? Because we're so used to hearing about the effects of fame and attention and the lifestyle of celebrities. A lot of people envy them, but of course it can't be that easy. How did she cope with the fame?
Well, one of the life lessons I've learned, actually, having read about things she has said, is talking about her husband. She said I think in the past few weeks, that she didn't really look after her own health because she was nursing her husband. So I think one life lesson we should take from that is, you know, look out for ourselves as well as our loved ones. So it's very easy to put yourself on a back burner. As for the celebrity thing, I mean, she obviously just embraced it because I think she didn't take life too seriously. I stayed at the Madonna Inn last year in California, this pink electric hotel where she was their regular guest. And I think she loved giving because she loved, you know, she loved giving, she loved the feeling of it. And I think people just embraced her givingness. So I don't think she suffered being in the public eye. Everybody at the Madonna Inn said she was their favourite guest. She tipped well. She treated, you know, junior staff like senior members of the staff. As far as I know, she didn't suffer, you know, as celebrities do.
And if you had to choose one song, Suzanne, which one would you choose for Dolly Parton's huge repertoire?
Working 9 till 5.
Was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Jolene, of course.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Suzanne Brown, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You work more than 9 till 5, Andrew.
I think my favourite would be I Will Always Love You. I thought it was a beautiful song. And, of course, Whitney Houston did it as a cover as well. It was massive. And I will always think so warmly of that concert I went to. She was tiny.
Yes.
Absolutely tiny. And tiny, thin legs. And, of course, that very substantial cleavage, which she was renowned for.
Her trademark,
Yeah. And she talked warmly about her husband, and it was just one of the loveliest concerts I've ever been to, and I felt quite privileged to be there, actually.
Yeah, and quite remarkable to see somebody live that kind of famous lifestyle for so long and stay relatively healthy and happy. What a success story.
Yeah, and of course, they had no children.
No.
She always says that if she had had children, she wouldn't have achieved anything like as much in her career. Because
many nieces and nephews as well there.
Yeah. Well, plenty more to come, and please do keep your tributes coming in for Dolly Parton. Did you see her too? And what was your favourite Dolly Parton song? This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Plenty more to come.
And Miriam.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M27 eastbound is blocked by an obstruction between junctions 4 and 5 in Southampton. The M5 southbound is affected by a collision at junction 8. The M6 southbound is affected by an incident between junctions 15 and 14 in Stone. The M62 westbound is closed between junctions 23 and 22 in Saddleworth. In Scotland, the M8 eastbound is slow with 3 lanes restricted at the Helen Street turnoff between junction 24, and on the trains, Cross Country and East Midlands Railway services are facing delays and a reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway of the year so far.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this brand new McClure Fusion could be yours. We'll also boost your bank account too with a further £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like.
For a chance to win, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Wednesday the 25th of August. We're across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. I actually think it's the 26th.
I think it probably is. It certainly is. Now, breaking this morning, your energy bills are going to rise by £60 from October. Remember when our new Prime Minister said this on the steps of Number 10 just last month?
That can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
And is there a migrant crime cover-up? 11 families of victims have written to the Justice Secretary demanding that he publishes the full scale of foreign national offending in England and Wales.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can.
Tributes are pouring in from all around the world for Dolly Parton, who's died at the age of 80. President Trump has ordered flags to be lowered at half-mast for 6 days to honour her, and the Prime Minister remembered the country music icon earlier today.
I was a huge fan of what Dolly did around literacy around the world. I was Culture Secretary when her libraries were first coming through, and the books that went into communities across Britain. You know, what a legacy to leave.
And is the Russian bear ready to bite? Britain has been warned of a big threat incoming after showing support for Ukraine.
And Labour on the lay-by. Pregnant women are being offered classes on how to give birth in a car after their nearest maternity ward in Devon closed temporarily.
And this morning, Reform's Robert Jenrick will set out his plan to rescue small businesses across the country.
You wouldn't believe it from the national debate in Parliament behind me, but small businesses are the absolute lifeblood of our economy.
And West Bank showdown. The Prime Minister is set to announce robust new anti-Israel sanctions as he vowed to go much further than Sir Keir Starmer.
And the summer holidays are almost over, but GB News' Doogie Beattie is hitting the road for one last great British adventure.
Yes, it's the final days of the summer break. The madness is nearly over, and I'm travelling around the UK in a motorhome to catch up with some of those that holidayed at home. I'll have more throughout the programme.
So far, Andrew, Andy Burnham's been pretty careful not to criticise Keir Starmer too much, but one area in which he has completely departed from Keir Starmer's stance on issues is over Israel. As soon as he came into number 10, he apologised for Labour's stance, which, to be honest, was not that supportive of Israel at the time. It merely said that Israel should be able to defend itself. Well, now he's going one step further and looking at banning trade with towns in the West Bank, which could backfire, I think.
Yeah, and it will impact the whole of Israel, and I think actually it will help Netanyahu with elections in October.
Possibly. That is
I
true.
think it will probably bolster his position. But again, this is all about, you see, Labour have lost a lot of support in the Muslim community because of its stance on Israel and Gaza, and I think he's a very political Prime Minister.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is worrying for our relationship with Israel, one of our closest allies in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East. Doesn't mean we can't criticise some of Israeli policy, but to go this far, I think, as you say, shows it's more about ideology than practical thinking.
Tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursave. First, here's the news with our favourite, Sam Francis.
Thank you both, and a very good morning to you. The top story today at 10. Well, Dolly Parton is being remembered as a once-in-a-lifetime star after her death at the age of 80, following what her publicist described as a brief battle with cancer. The country music superstar was best known for hits including Jolene, 9 to 5 and I Will Always Love You. Tributes have been pouring in from around the world, with Sir Paul McCartney calling her a magnificent star, while Beyoncé described her as a North Star for the industry. Landmarks across America have been lit up in pink in her honour, as fans remembered not just her music, but her philanthropy, including a children's book programme which donated more than 300 million books. Here, households are facing higher energy bills this winter after Ofgem has raised its price cap by 4% to now a 3-year high. From October, the average annual bill will rise by £60 to £1,723, just as families start using more heating. Ofgem says high international gas prices are driving the energy costs in the UK, with volatile global markets putting more pressure on bills. The government says its cut to VAT on electricity has limited the rise, but analysts are already forecasting another increase in the new year. In Pakistan, at least 14 newborn babies have died after a fire broke out in a hospital in Islamabad. Officials say that blaze started in an air conditioning unit at a hospital before spreading through the maternity ward. One baby was rescued in an area where 15 newborns were being cared for at the time. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has ordered an immediate inquiry, with a report due within 24 hours. And staying with international news, Canada has hit back at Donald Trump's latest tariffs, announcing counter-tariffs of up to 50% on a range of US goods. Ottawa says the measures are a proportionate response after trade talks with Washington collapsed. The move covers around £15 billion worth of American products, from steel and furniture to tuna and cotton T-shirts. Both sides, though, are accusing each other of making unreasonable demands, raising fears of higher prices and more pressure on businesses either side of the border. Sainsbury's is offering 10,000 work experience places across the country as ministers are trying to tackle the youth unemployment crisis. The supermarket says that programme will include workspace visits, careers sessions and practical experiences across England, Scotland and Wales. It will focus on communities where young people face the biggest barriers to work. Prime Minister Andy Burnham says opportunities should not depend on who you know and where you live, and is urging more businesses to follow Sainsbury's lead. People living with ADHD and autism are being left to fall through the gaps, according to a major review of services in England. The Health Ombudsman says that demand is outstripping capacity, with children and adults facing long waits and fragmented support. Complaints about ADHD and autism services have risen sharply in recent years, and the review says that too many people feel they have no choice but to pay privately. And after weeks of heat and drought, parts of England and Wales are now being warned to brace for thunderstorms and possible flooding. Forecasters say some areas could see a month's worth of rain in just a few hours. The Met Office says there is a small chance that fast-flowing or deep floodwaters could also cause a danger to life. Those are this morning's headlines for you. More news shortly. Now, though, it's back to Britain's newsroom.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. You're watching and listening across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Lots of texts and emails, I think.
Yes. So lots of people commenting actually on Andy Burnham's plan or consideration of putting a boycott on certain Israeli goods. Unfortunately, it's just the comment that I was looking at has just disappeared off my screen, but essentially saying that Labour is just trying to hide their anti-Semitic views still, and using this as an opportunity to attack Israel. And other people worrying that that means that Israel will stop sharing vital intelligence with us and things like that.
And we shouldn't forget one of the first things Andy Burnham also did was to welcome Diane Abbott back into the Labour Party fold, and she'd been kicked out or suspended because of comments that were perceived to be anti-Semitic.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know members of the Jewish community who I spoke to were horrified. So what does it mean?
Yeah.
What can we conclude from that?
Exactly. I'm just trying to find...
And this boycott, so they'll boycott goods associated with firms in the West Bank. It'll just spiral across the whole of Israel.
Well, exactly, because how do you determine which part of a particular item was produced in which part of one country? And, of course, I think it's absolutely legitimate to criticise what the Israeli government is doing with the settlements in the West Bank, and they're due to go to tender for 1,200 homes there, which could put an end to Palestinian hopes of their own state. But there is also an election going on in Israel, and a lot of this is about pandering to the, frankly, extreme views of some of the MPs in Israel. But that will all be over on the 28th of October, and will it be politics as normal?
This will play to Netanyahu's strength. He will,
the actions of Britain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yes. Well, he's already the longest-serving Western Prime Minister by a country mile. But I do think... I wonder if he's going to survive this next election, Andrew. It's been a turbulent few years.
Yeah.
And one more comment before we move on. This is on the story we're going to be covering about Barnstaple Maternity Hospital being shut. Janie says, I can't believe in this day and age and in this country, women are being told how to give birth in the car. What a disgrace.
It is a disgrace.
I agree, and we're going to be finding out why we're in this situation later on in the programme.
There's been all sorts of ongoing issues with the maternity services in this country.
Absolutely.
Now, energy prices, I'm afraid, are rising for millions of households across the country to the highest level for 3 years.
Well, the Prime Minister gave this reaction.
It's difficult for people, and I recognise that, but it's why within days of taking office I announced that we would remove VAT off electricity bills to give people that little bit of help. That kicks in from October. We know the price cap will have an impact, but it is what we can do right now. And we'll continue to look as we go forward at how we get energy prices down in the long term, and that's what we need to do too.
Well, remember, Andrew, he said only this last month.
I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
I can distinctly remember Ed Miliband as the climate change spokesman for Labour in the run-up to last election saying, vote Labour, they will cut energy bills by £300 a year. They then changed that to in the next Parliament or at the end of this Parliament. And the Conservatives are saying that, in fact, energy bills have gone up £400 since Labour got into power.
Yeah. I think
they will to blame Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, but it's also this government's addiction to net zero.
Yes, absolutely.
And green taxes.
And that is something that is in the government's control.
Yes.
Of course, the government can't control global fuel prices. No. I think most people understand that. But they certainly could reduce the cost of net zero. And also, it is just telling how much inflation in general we've had over the last 20 or 30 years. And again, that is largely down to government policy in terms of borrowing and spending, and that has cost people dearly.
And remember, the Prime Minister did say, Andy Burnham, he would want it to be known as the cost of living Prime Minister. Well, energy bills are a huge part of the cost of living crisis.
Well, we're joined now by James Heal, who's the Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. James, good morning. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Like it or not, Andy Burnham is going to be judged on the cost of living.
Absolutely.
How much do you think prices are within his control, and what, if anything, can he do about it?
Well, I don't think they are hugely in his control, Miriam, and I think that that is a misunderstanding, perhaps, of the government's role in setting these prices. As you were saying there, I think that everyone would understand world fuel prices going up, but there's two things he can control, one of which is his response and the narrative he sets around that, and the second of all is going to be the energy policy under Miatta Fahnbulleh, Ed Miliband's replacement at the Department of Energy. So I think in terms of the first point, you're already seeing a shift in the rhetoric. He's moving away from talking about cost of living to this more general term about breathing space. I think that is an acknowledgement, an acceptance that he can't do much to actually put money in people's pockets. I think second of all, on the point about energy, there seems to be no real shift in policy. So I think that's something the Conservatives, led by Claire Coutinho, are going to very much go after.
And what about on the green taxes, James?
Well, I think that the £45 that the Prime Minister's been touting and talking about, I think ultimately that is a drop in the ocean. Really, this is probably going to be the hardest Christmas we've seen in energy since 2022, when, of course, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, we're not talking anything like the Liz Truss £100 billion energy bailout this time, but I do think it's fair to say that we're going to see, as we approach that budget coming up in the middle of October, half-term, more and more pressure for the government to intervene. And I wonder, given Andy Burnham has very much been an emotive Prime Minister, someone who says he can kind of feel the pain of the public and very much wants to help, I wonder how he's going to fare between the sort of the rock of public opinion and the hard place of the international bond markets.
Now, James, both the Conservatives and Reform UK have put forward quite radical plans for energy to reduce reliance on renewables, to go back to either fossil fuels or nuclear, which would in the long run reduce prices. How much do you think the detail of those plans is landing with the public? Does it actually make a difference to how people will vote, or are they merely looking at the costs and just blaming whoever is currently in power?
I think there's a bit of blaming incumbents, and I think that Iran is potentially going to be to international democracies and international governments what COVID was 5 or 6 years ago, a worldwide event that affects incumbents and sort of helps push them out of power across the globe. But I also think that in terms of what the opposition party's response is, energy is a funny thing. I don't think people put it as like the first top line of priority, but I think it can affect elections. We saw that with Aberdeen South, the by-election recently, when the SNP lost to the Conservatives. We've seen issues around things like ULEZ, remember back in the Uxbridge by-election 2023. Things around energy and cost of living can cut through at the right point. And I do think that the public is starting to appreciate the fact that we do have one of the highest electricity prices in the world. That affects industry. And it's something that net zero has been talked about for many, many years. I think right now the cost after those devolved elections in Wales and Scotland, where we saw a reversal for Labour in both of those, it's starting to sink in. And I think we'll see more of it with both Reform and the Conservatives.
James, do with what they're going to decide about the two North Sea gas fields, what are they called? I've got what they're called.
Jackdaw and
Rosebank, suggesting that there'll be one approved but not the other. And somebody, a Labour MP was saying to me the other day, they can't possibly announce anything about it right now while we've been going through this extraordinary heat wave and with all the bushfires.
Yeah, and I very much picked that up as well from talking to members of the left of the Conservative Party. I was comparing the response to the European Convention on Human Rights and net zero, the two Kemi big announcements, and they were much more relaxed about the ECA than net zero. I think there's the thing, isn't it? What's immediately in front of you, Andrew? Right now we have, big parks in the centre of London. Green parks become yellow park. You have all these sort of heaths, Clapham Common I'm sat beside, it's gone completely, it looks like a sort of Lib Dem gain. All these sort of the physical effects of climate change are around us, and and that strengthens the hand of people like Miatta Fahnbulleh and Ed Miliband. But also people care about the cost of living, and I think that people's stated preference in the polling is very different from their revealed preference when it comes to the polls.
Yes, indeed. Just to move on to a slightly different topic, finally. We've seen Andy Burnham cozying up to Vladimir Zelensky, just as his predecessors did. Support for Ukraine is still a pretty popular policy in the UK, but it does seem to be incensing the Russians. We know we're already under threat from Russian operations on this soil. Do you think, again, the public are registering this threat? Do they blame the government for that? Are they still willing to support Ukraine regardless, or would they rather a little bit less warmongering, as some of our viewers are saying?
I think that the public needs to be made aware of the rising threats, and speaking to members of parliament from across the spectrum, there is that sense of, hang on, guys, we had a nice 35-year period after the end of the Cold War where we didn't have to have, emergency security provisions, prepare. Of course, back in the days when school children had to prepare for nuclear air raids, something like that in the modern age, in the sense that we are constantly under attack by hostile threat actors. We saw the NHS cyber attack a few years ago. All these things mean an added risk of security. They mean added costs for us, the taxpayer. And I think that it is something that we need to think about in the future. So I don't think the public is fully prepared. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these warnings now before something terrible potentially happens.
Well, James Heal, thank you so much, as always, for joining us on Britain's Newsroom.
Now it's time for our Great British Giveaway, and it's the biggest of the year so far. You can win a new 4-berth motorhome worth £75,000 plus £35,000 tax-free cash to spend. Here's how you do it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway of the year so far.
It's your chance to win a whopping £110,000 prize package that comes in 2 terrific parts.
You'll be able to explore Great Britain and beyond in this, your very own motorhome.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this brand new McClure Fusion could be yours. It comfortably sleeps 4 with spacious lounge area for entertaining and fully fitted kitchen and bathroom.
Plus, you can drive it on your standard driving licence.
We'll also boost your bank account too with a further £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like.
Make sure you don't miss out on this £110,000 prize package.
For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. We may call the winner live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck with that. Coming up next, tributes pour in from around the world for country music icon Dolly Parton, who's died aged 80.
We'll be talking about all that and more with Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. There they are. That's our panel this morning. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It is 22 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We've got the panel, TV and radio broadcaster Mike Parry and former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Gentlemen, Dolly Parton fans?
Oh, incredible. I mean, absolutely. I lived in America in the 80s and worked there. She was on the front of every magazine thinkable at least once a month. American icon, you know, fantastically flamboyant and glittering woman. But behind all the glamour, behind all the rhinestones, incredibly talented woman who wrote some of the most famous songs of the last 30 or 40 years. Did you know it was 20 years between her writing I Will Always Love You until it became world famous in the film with Whitney Houston.
And it's still the biggest ever selling record by a woman singer.
Wow.
But I think what's remarkable about her, two things, well, many things, two things in particular. Coming from a family of how many was it?
12 children.
In basically a sharecropper's shack in Tennessee.
Her father was illiterate.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why she gave away so many books to kids.
Where did that genius come from? And the second thing was her literacy campaign. She sent a book to every child in Tennessee up until the age of 5.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Encourage them to
Because her own father was illiterate and she wanted other kids to have a
isn't
sense.
that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
She was also very, very sort of philanthropic. She's giving a huge amount of money. She gave $1 million to research for the coronavirus.
Yeah. But you know what I think is really extraordinary, Mike? The President has ordered every state building to lower the flag.
Unbelievable. The only person who gets that usually is a war hero, the first man who stepped on the moon, or Superman. You see what I mean? But she got it.
She's America's queen.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And also, you know, she personified so much of American values, the Deep South, you know, the Bible Belt, that sort of thing. She expounded that all the time. The great story about Islands in the Stream, you know, the great song of hers, is that it was written by the Bee Gees, and they wrote it for the leader of the Supremes.
Diana
Ross, thank you. Or Marvin Gaye. They wanted it to be like a soul song. Anyway, on the day that Kenny Rogers was going to record it himself, right, and have a go at it, it so happened that Dolly Parton was in the same recording studio in Los Angeles, so he literally went downstairs and asked her to have a go at accompanying him on that song. Wow. And that's how it became so world famous.
And it was that lovely episode of Gavin and Stacey, do you remember, where Uncle Bryn is singing the Islands in the Stream. But she was also a great supporter of sort of gay rights and transgender rights, and things which you wouldn't normally have thought somebody from that sort of very religious background. Don't forget, she started singing in church, but I mean, which great American singer doesn't seem to have started singing?
I think Aretha Franklin.
And Whitney Houston.
Absolutely. Well, it gives you the opportunity to practice and perform from such a young age, doesn't it? That by the time you get to your late teens or adulthood, you've just had thousands and thousands of hours of experience.
In church?
I didn't go to a traditional church with a choir, but yes,
But
you know,
did
you're
sing.
saying, yeah.
And another thing about her was, of course, she was
a chance of giving us a song.
No.
She was incredibly attractive from a very early age, right? Yeah. And so you can imagine the casting couch formula down there in the Deep South. She married at 18 because basically, I'm not saying she didn't love her husband, but it was handy to have a bodyguard, a big tall bloke, walk into the studios with you to make it clear to, you know, the director in charge that we're going to do this.
He was also a pretty hard guy himself. He was Tennessee.
He was one of the good old boys, you know, from that part of the world. Quite outstanding, really. The other thing is, the first song, sorry to keep going on about this, first song ever recorded, Puppy Love. Who made Puppy Love?
Johnny Osmond.
Exactly.
Actually, her first song she wrote was called Dumb Blonde. And she said, I ain't dumb and ain't a blonde.
Yeah.
It's that lovely thing about how long does it take to do your hair?
Well, she also said,
I don't know, I ain't there.
Yeah, she also made that great quote. She said, it costs quite a lot of money to look this cheap.
That's right,
Fantastic.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you know you could buy this at Woolworths?
Now, what do you... This Home Office Minister... Stephen has made a terrible blunder, hasn't she, by paying tribute
Absolutely.
to all 7 victims of that car crash last week, in which 2 police officers, 2 young dads, were killed by joyriders driving the wrong way up a motorway.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think we need to actually park this expression about joyriders. These are death drivers. There's nothing joyous about this. It's not joy drivers.
The Home Office Minister is Anna Turley.
Yeah, no, I know all about Anna Turley, and I know what she said, and I know what Nick Timothy has tried to make sort of political capital.
The Tory opposite number.
Yeah, indeed so. But look, the reality is that 7 people did die, and 2 of them were killed. 5 of them basically committed suicide by doing what they did.
Yeah, 2 of them were murdered, yeah.
Well, I mean, and they had form. We know all about that. But the reality is that it is still a tragedy for their families, and it's a tragedy that young people...
It's a waste of life, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but there's no comparability there whatsoever. But you can't have degrees of sorrow.
No.
I think that you can feel more sympathy for the family. Don't forget, one of those police officers had served in Optelic. He'd been in Iraq.
Absolutely. What I found very disturbing, so on Monday morning I was doing a TV show, right? Yeah. And the information on these aggressors, these 5 people, had not started coming out. Nevertheless, a certain element of the left were saying things exactly like Anne Turley. Let's not forget 5 young men died. Let's think of their families. They were human beings. They were young people. And during the course of Monday, more and more facts started coming out about the background to these 5. 4 of them had 37 police criminal convictions.
And 2 cases for assaulting the police.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know...
But do you not think that, you know, they were culpable? That seems clear.
Yeah.
And the policemen who were killed were absolutely the victims.
Yeah.
But still, as human beings, and certainly as British people who value all life, you can say this was a tragedy. What a waste of young men who, had they been on a better path, could have gone on to contribute
but Miriam,
a lot.
does that mean you have the same amount of sympathy for the families of the policemen as you have for the families of the boys?
As a mother, if my son was killed, regardless of whether he was doing something he shouldn't have been at the time, I would feel the same amount of sorrow. Wouldn't you? That's just human nature.
And what would you feel like as a parent if a son of yours ever behaved like that and got into that ridiculous crime way?
Of course, devastated, but that's completely beside the point.
No, it's not. I still believe parents are the biggest influence on their children.
Why are we rowing about this? On the one hand, as British people with British values, we believe that all life is equal and this is a tragedy. On the other hand, any intelligent adult with a few brain cells can tell the difference between criminals and policemen. So just leave it.
But what the Conservative MP Nick Timothy said was that she, the Home Office Minister, was putting on a par the 5
exactly
death riders, as you call them, as the police officers.
Well, don't forget, Anna Turley is the MP for Middlesbrough, and so she has a duty. She couldn't not say something.
And at the time when she said it, which she has been clear, the details, as Mike said, were not known, and she was just mourning the loss of 7 lives. That was all that was known at that point. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
But if we look at what we've lost in society, I feel greatly the loss of those 2 policemen.
Yes, I agree.
But I have to say, perhaps I'm a miserable human being, but I don't feel that depth of despair at the loss of the 5 young men, because I'm afraid they put their lives at risk through their terrible actions.
If you were their father, you would be feeling sorrow, regardless of whether or not they'd
2 of us on this panel are parents, and 2 of you aren't parents. And I think we have a slightly different take on it.
I also thought it was the most appalling bad taste to see friends of one of those 5.
Oh yeah, no,
young men, lighting.
That's just,
just outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell now this
balloons
is
and
they had orange. They were riding on their bikes around on the recreation.
It's an out of control cult, isn't it? You can tell because it's almost like these 5 are. Remember in the old days, the Hells Angels used to celebrate if one of their mates crashed into an oncoming lorry because he didn't wear a crash helmet. He was a hero. You know what I mean? A real Hells Angel. And it's a bit like that now, isn't it? These 5 are martyrs to the cause. You know what I mean?
What's interesting is that last week in County Kildare in Ireland, 5 young men died on the motorway.
Very similar. Very
almost
similar.
Identical.
Almost word for word, even to the same vehicle. And I think this TikTok really need to be a bit careful about this stuff that they're putting out.
It's so difficult to manage TikTok. It's such a huge company.
But isn't it just a bit of a get out to blame TikTok?
Well, I totally agree. I mean, TikTok, in their defence, say 99.1% of damaging material like that is usually got rid of before it gets to publication, and they chase the rest.
These young men were serial criminals.
Of course, to blame TikTok, it's like blaming a mirror for what it reflects.
Yeah, very good.
It's just too easy an excuse, isn't it, really?
Yeah, of course it is.
Well, thank you both. We'll see you again in an hour for more lively debate.
I like the way you said, what are we rowing about?
First, we're going to get a 60-second news update with Sam Francis, who's wearing his shorts today.
Good morning. The headlines at 10:30. Dolly Parton is being remembered as a once-in-a-lifetime star after her death at the age of 80. Representatives say the country music icon died after facing a brief battle with cancer. Tributes have poured in from around the world, with Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mick Jagger, Taylor Swift and Beyoncé all honouring her music, generosity and legacy. Households are facing higher energy bills this winter after Ofgem's raised its price cap by 4% to a 3-year high. The average annual bill will rise by £60 to £1,723, just as families start using more heating. At least 14 newborn babies have died after a fire broke out in a hospital in Pakistan. Officials there say the blaze started in an air conditioning unit at a hospital before spreading through the maternity ward. Sainsbury's is offering 10,000 work experience places to help tackle the youth unemployment crisis. Prime Minister Andy Burnham says employers must help close the gap between the classroom and the workplace, and is urging more businesses to follow Sainsbury's lead. And after weeks of heat and drought, parts of England and Wales are now being warned to brace for thunderstorms, hail and possible flooding. The Met Office says there is a small chance of fast-flowing or deep floodwater causing a danger to life. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you at 11.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, coming up next, a really shocking story. Pregnant women are being offered classes on how to give birth in the car after their nearest maternity ward in Devon has been temporarily closed. We'll have the local MP on to discuss it next.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, welcome back to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's warm and humid for many of us today, but low pressure is moving in and that will give heavy downpours, even some very lively thunderstorms. In fact, we're starting the day with heavy showers moving through parts of central and eastern England. This line of showery rain extending through northwest England into Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and it's progressing north. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise through the Midlands, parts of Wales and the south, other thunderstorms will develop into the afternoon, interspersed by some sunshine, and it will feel warm in the sunshine, temperatures up to the mid or even high 20s, staying largely dry but fresher to the north and northeast of Scotland. Plenty of sunshine for Shetland and Orkney, barely a drop of rain here. And we keep a fine end to the day for many parts of Scotland, generally northeastwards of Glasgow. but we do have this area of potentially thundery rain moving into southern and central Scotland as the day progresses. Showers easing off for a time across Northern Ireland, but this is the area where there is a thunderstorm warning. Parts of Wales into Northern England, the Midlands, East Anglia, because of the risk of large hail, frequent lightning, torrential rain. We're talking about 50 millimetres in places in just a few hours. That could cause some serious impacts despite the fact that we've been so lacking in rainfall recently. More heavy downpours move into the south overnight and to start things off on Thursday. A warm and muggy start to the day here, and it's going to be a cloudy start for many parts of the UK on Thursday itself. We follow the track of this line of potentially thundery rain as it moves through central parts of the UK, albeit slowly, and some places again could see more than 50 millimetres through the day accumulating, and that amount of rain could cause flash flooding. Another thunderstorm warning in force. Quieter for Scotland, just a few showers, drying up in the far south.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M23 northbound is affected by an incident between junctions 9 and 8 in Reigate. The M20 eastbound has an obstruction at junction 4 in West Malling. The M62 westbound is closed between junctions 23 and 22 in Saddleworth. In Scotland, the M77 northbound has a queue and 2 lanes restricted at junction 2. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central, while East Midlands railway services have a temporary reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 23 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hard to believe this story, but it's true. Pregnant women in the southwest of England are being offered classes on how to give birth in their car.
Well, it comes following the sudden closure of a local maternity ward, forcing expectant mothers to make the gruelling nearly 2-hour journey by road to Exeter.
Well, they're going to speak to the Ben Maguire, who is the Lib Dem MP for North Cornwall. Mr Maguire, good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me on this morning.
You're welcome.
Pleasure. The word shocking is often overused, but I think this is going to shock people watching and listening, that pregnant women are being taught how to give birth in a car in Britain in 2026. It's extraordinary.
It absolutely is. And like you say, Andrew, shocking doesn't even really begin to cover it, does it? I mean, if we saw this kind of state of healthcare in a third world country, we'd be genuinely shocked. But here we are in the UK in 2026. And my constituents in Bude and residents in my neighbouring constituency of North Devon are facing this reality today. And it's absolutely awful that the poor women, and I must pay tribute to the women who have had to suffer this anxiety in the past few weeks over the summer, at a time that nobody wants to be anxious. This should be an exciting time, looking ahead, looking forward to the birth of their new child. And instead, we've seen the Trust make this decision to close their maternity unit. And as you say, Andrew, absolutely shocking to see suggestions that pregnant women would be forced to have their children in a lay-by. I'm really delighted to see my neighbouring constituency MP Ian Room in North Devon has worked with me to get 15,000 signatures now on a petition to reopen the unit. And we're hearing that that reopening should happen by the end of September if everything goes well. But how did we get into this situation? My residents in Bude live in a town which is the most remote from any hospital, any major hospital in the country, and they don't have the option to just go to another hospital. You're talking up to Exeter, an hour and a half on a good day, up to Taunton, probably closer to 2 hours on a good day. Bus travel, you're looking probably at 2.5 hours with lots of changes. So how they expect pregnant women to do that is beyond me, and it's a really shocking state of affairs.
Why, Mr Maguire, did they close the maternity hospital? Was it a funding issue?
So I think it's probably a range of issues, but the key issue that the North Devon Hospital Trusts have cited again and again is a lack of specialist maternity consultants who can staff the ward and keep it open. But I must admit, Andrew, I was really disappointed when I've met the trust. I asked, how long have you had the adverts up for the consultants? This is going back a few weeks ago. How long have you been recruiting? How long have you been advertising? Oh, well, the advert went up last Friday. And you just have your head in your hands. This isn't a situation that happens overnight. These are very well-paid people that run these hospital trusts. And I know it's difficult to recruit in rural areas. That's a national issue. It's not just a Cornwall and Devon issue. And we need to look at that. And as you pointed out there, Andrew, funding is a part of that, how we attract doctors to rural areas. We know that housing in Devon and Cornwall is very expensive. That's not always making us a very attractive place to come and practice. So we do need to look at the wider strategy. But I must admit, I do put a certain amount of blame at the door of the trust here, because it feels like they've kind of sleepwalked into this situation where they've had to, in a last-minute panic, close this very, very important unit at North Devon Hospital.
And Mr Maguire, these are not insignificant numbers of deliveries. I've just been looking at the figures now. And of course, the birth rate has dropped in recent years, as it has across the country. But we're still looking at about 12 or 1,300 babies a year born at this hospital. That's 3 a day. The idea that 3 women a day are going to somehow be able to make their way to Exeter without any tragic complications, I'm afraid is just unrealistic. We are probably, sadly, going to see deaths and, at the very least, serious injuries as a result of this closure.
Yeah, absolutely right, Miriam. And I think this goes to the very heart of what I've been saying since I was elected in 2024 as a rural Cornish MP. The government really needs to wake up to the needs and issues that we have in rural areas. This case really goes to the epitome of some of the huge challenges we face. I mentioned earlier the 2.5 bus journey times. It's fantastic. You can see Andy Burnham on your screen there promising to cut bus fares, but we literally don't have any buses in this part of North Cornwall. And going to take our residents to North Devon Hospital for checkups, we have record waiting times for ambulances. And as you say, Miriam, this is going to put women in real danger. We're not talking about nice to have trips to the supermarket or to the shopping centre. This is literally an issue of life and death, and we need to see this being taken seriously now by the new Burnham government, be it the bus travel that takes us to those vital healthcare appointments, be it more funding for our rural ambulance services, and ultimately more funding and support for our rural healthcare services, because we just feel like the forgotten relation down here. And that's not me just moaning. That's, as you guys have pointed out, literally a matter of life and death for a lot of people.
Well, the Commons is back next week, Mr Maguire. Will you be raising this with Yvette Cooper, who is the new Health Secretary in Burnham's cabinet?
Absolutely, Andrew. Yeah, and Ian Ream and myself, North Devon MP, have already written to Yvette Cooper requesting an urgent meeting. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to Parliament next week and making sure this is our #1 priority, really speaking out on this in the House of Commons, making sure we meet with Yvette and her team.
And Mr Maguire, do you think that one of the problems here is the amount of medical negligence that is paid out with regards to obstetric care? I think it's about a third of all NHS clinical negligence claims go to obstetric claims, £1.3 billion a year. Do you think the Trust is just too fearful that if they're slightly understaffed, if they don't have quite the right qualifications in the hospital and something goes wrong, they are going to be sued, and so they'd rather close their doors than risk the claims?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Miriam. As you pointed out, billions of pounds is being spent on medical negligence legal claims, which again is scandalous in itself at a time that we don't apparently have enough money to fund our rural healthcare services. So yeah, of course, I can imagine the Trust management will be taking that into account. And of course, by law, they're obligated to provide that safe service, that safe level of care for their patients. But I go back to what I said earlier. Why were the Trusts not preparing a proper recruitment strategy so we didn't end up in this awful mess? And I've seen it, by the way, on a smaller scale in minor injuries units. I've got very rural towns in my constituency like Launceston, and last summer that was closed because there weren't enough nurses to staff it. And I asked the same question of the Trust there. Why are you not making more of an effort and coming up with a proper strategy to recruit these nurses and doctors that we so vitally need? And I'm not being funny, but these people get paid quite a lot of money to do that job. They're quite well-paid executives, and I wouldn't begrudge anyone getting a good salary if they do a good job. But this really feels like they've dropped the ball here, where a closure has had to happen over the summer, leaving these vulnerable women at serious risk.
Well, Ben Maguire, thank you so much for joining us. And as someone who has delivered 3 babies, thank you on behalf of women for sticking up for this, because it is such an important issue.
Unimaginable.
It is. And people say, oh, well, in the old days, people used to give birth in home. They did. And 1 in 7 women used to die in childbirth. And that's why we have hospitals.
I know.
And we lived about 20 minutes drive away from the hospital where I gave birth to R3. And I can tell you that 20 minutes was enough in the car and for my husband. I wouldn't want to do 2 hours.
And look, the trust, this recruitment crisis in the trust didn't happen overnight.
No,
it's
exactly.
It's clearly been building up. And as Ben Maguire, the MP there, said, they should have had a strategy to deal with it. Now, we've got a statement here from the Royal Devon University Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, which says...
We're continuing to work urgently to restore birthing services at North Devon District Hospital and continue to make solid progress on recruiting the medical staff needed to safely reopen the services. There has been no change to the temporary suspension of maternity services as of today.
And the end of September, that's, well, as you say, that works out 3 babies a day for 30 days.
I know, that is a lot. That is very, very concerning. Well, we're going to Spain now, where the world's largest tomato fight, yes, you heard that right, is about to take place as the public play in tomato pulp during the annual La Tomatina Food Fight Festival.
What very strange people they are in Spain, frankly. But first, talking of Spain, here's the forecast for some holiday sun.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. It's hot across central parts of Europe, especially across Italy next few days. Meanwhile, thundery downpours will affect large parts of France as well as central areas. And we've got some showery rain pushing through the Canary Islands, but the more unsettled weather will move into Portugal and Spain during Thursday and Friday. Heavy rain, strong winds, as thunderstorms across France and Germany continue. And it's going to be very unsettled through central and western parts of Europe as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The 19th century opera composer Richard Wagner has been accused of virulent anti-Semitism and of inspiring Adolf Hitler. What is the truth in those accusations? A new book painstakingly researches what Wagner wrote and said and what he didn't write and say.
I was really guided to the title of my book by an article by Dominic Lawson on the occasion of Wagner's 200th birthday. It argued that we should go on listening to Wagner, but the headline was, Hitler's favourite composer was a monster. And various facts were alleged in support of this, that Wagner believed in the German master race, that his views influenced Hitler.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
What is rosé wine? How does it get that colour?
So the colour is from the red grapes. It's made with either white or red grapes, and it's left to macerate or steep, so you get a little bit of that red grape colour, but not so much that it's a red wine.
It's called the Pale Rosé by Sacha Lichine. Where does this come from?
This is from Provence. So this is the sort of sibling, little sister of a very famous rosé. And so they're making the same thing, but I find it sort of lighter, easier to drink, more fruity, and I think I prefer it. So it's delicious, really.
Oh, that is deeply delicious. Very drinkable, isn't
it? It is.
You've gone all afternoon with that.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Royal Navy was the most powerful navy in the world at that time. That was really the bigger ships, the sort of capital ships they're called. When it came to small ships, we really weren't. and especially minesweepers. There were something like 30 sweepers to protect 20,000 miles of coastline. So Churchill, as First Lord of the Admiralty, realised quickly something needed to be done, and he mobilised what became known as the Royal Naval Patrol Service, rather a dry name. But he requisitioned 200 trawlers, deep-sea trawlers from Grimsby, Hull, all those big sort of fishing ports, and their crews. And they were fish decks, or fish holes were turned into mess decks. Fishing nets were removed, replaced by sweeping gear.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 9 minutes till 11 o'clock. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, this will be fun because it's the last week of the summer holidays, and GB News' Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie is touring Britain in the run-up to the bank holiday weekend.
I'm not quite sure that branding passes the Trade Descriptions Act, Doogie, because it makes it look like you're travelling around in a supercar. I understand you're in Portrush in Northern Ireland. Are you in a supercar, Doogie, or something a little bit more modest?
Oh, no, definitely a lot more modest than that, I can assure you. A 1990-odd motorhome, and we're taking it down through the UK, having a look at some of those stay-at-home holiday destinations. Of course, a couple of weeks ago we were in Benidorm. Now we're looking at those and really having a look to see how hospitality is done, who is out and about, etc. But this morning we've been on breakfast television and it's only 10:45 now, 10:50. Most holiday makers aren't up, and I am living a dream. This is where I spent a lot of my childhood. This is one of the amusement parks inside Portrush, and there's nobody here except myself, the interviewee, and the cameraman. I can have a go at anything I want. Isn't that just a child's dream? And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow and Friday and Saturday to various places we're travelling. We'll find out where that is tomorrow. But right now I'm joined by Alan Simpson. Alan, when you were on with us earlier, you are very much an ambassador for the Antrim Coast. Has it been a good year for tourism?
It's been an absolute bumper year for tourism, in fairness. The one thing I will say about Portrush this year has been the families. Portrush is now a huge family resort once again, and a lot down to the fun fair here at Courage. This is bringing the old generational thing of people coming with grandfather, grandmother and their grandkids, and they're all enjoying Portrush and everything it has to offer. In fact, the whole North Coast.
Well, I mean, most of these holiday resorts depend on part-time workers, on seasonal workers. Has there been problems getting any of those in?
Well, it's a rite of passage, I suppose, in Portrush. Whenever you were young, you either worked in Barry's, Courage, or you worked at the golf club collecting balls or being a caddy, and that work is still going on, and there's still plenty of work in the town.
Well, do you know what? I am wanting to go on something here, and I think these hobby horses would do me just fine. We'll see you later on, but as for now, thanks, Alan. See if we can get this started up here. Oh, God. Yeah, it's good. And off we go. Tally-ho, and we'll see you later on.
It's not a bad job, is it?
No, well, it looks a little bit more pleasant than the bucking bronco that he was on in Benidorm, which he did fall off whilst holding a mic. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, that's very. I remember those rocking horse amusements when I used to go to Butlins as a child.
Ah, yes. Well, still ahead on Britain's Newsroom, any moment now, Reform's Robert Jenrick will set out his plan to rescue small businesses across the country.
This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome back to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's warm and humid for many of us today, but low pressure is moving in, and that will give heavy downpours, even some very lively thunderstorms. In fact, we're starting the day with heavy showers moving through parts of central and eastern England. This line of showery rain extending through northwest England into Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and it's progressing north. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise through the Midlands, parts of Wales and the south, Other thunderstorms will develop into the afternoon, interspersed by some sunshine, and it will feel warm in the sunshine, temperatures up to the mid or even high 20s, staying largely dry but fresher to the north and northeast of Scotland. Plenty of sunshine for Shetland and Orkney, barely a drop of rain here. And we keep a fine end to the day for many parts of Scotland, generally northeastwards of Glasgow. But we do have this area of potentially thundery rain moving into southern and central Scotland as the day progresses. Showers easing off for a time across Northern Ireland, but this is the area where there is a thunderstorm warning. Parts of Wales into northern England, the Midlands, East Anglia, because of the risk of large hail, frequent lightning, torrential rain. We're talking about 50 millimetres in places in just a few hours. That could cause some serious impacts despite the fact that we've been so lacking in rainfall recently. More heavy downpours move into the south overnight and to start things off on Thursday. A warm and muggy start to the day here. And it's going to be a cloudy start for many parts of the UK on Thursday itself. We follow the track of this line of potentially thundery rain as it moves through central parts of the UK, albeit slowly, and some places again could see more than 50 millimetres through the day accumulating, and that amount of rain could cause flash flooding. Another thunderstorm warning in force. Quieter for Scotland, just a few showers, drying up in the far south.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's brand new and it's the big one. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could win this brand new 4-berth motorhome. But that's just the beginning, as we'll also give you a whopping £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend, save, or just to use to enjoy adventures in your new motorhome.
For a chance to win, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It is 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 26th of August. We are live across the United Kingdom, Britain's newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, some breaking news this morning. Your energy bills will rise by £60 from October. Remember when the Prime Minister said this only last month?
I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
The migrant crime cover-up. Rhiannon White was brutally murdered by a Sudanese illegal migrant. Her mother, Siobhan, has signed a letter accusing the government of deliberately hiding crime data about migrant crimes. She joined us earlier.
Diabolical. It's like they're constantly denying what's going on and what's gone on.
Well, elsewhere this morning, Reform UK's Robert Jenrick will set out his plan to rescue small businesses across the country.
You wouldn't believe it from the national debate in Parliament behind me, but small businesses are the absolute lifeblood of our economy.
And the tributes are flooding in for Dolly Parton, who's died at the age of 80. President Trump has ordered flags to be lowered at half-mast for 6 days in her honour, and our own Prime Minister remembered the icon this way.
I was a huge fan of what Dolly did around literacy around the world. I was Culture Secretary when her libraries were first coming through, and the books that went into communities across Britain. You know, what a legacy to leave.
Andrew, I'm still really shocked about this maternity ward in Barnstaple Hospital in Devon. It's actually an area I've been on holiday. I expect a lot of our viewers to. It's a beautiful part of the world, lots of surf beaches and things like that. But the fact that women living there would have to travel 2 hours in a car in labour. Lots of women's labour don't last 2 hours.
Yeah, and they're being taught or prepared to give labour in the car. It's an extraordinary thing in 2026
exactly.
Britain.
I would have thought this is an emergency, and the NHS, the government, central London should be sending maternity staff, even if it's just for a week at a time. People are seconded from other organisations to go and be based there in a clinic to be on call for women going into labour. It's an appalling state of affairs.
It really is. And Yvette Cooper, the Health Secretary's going to have to do something about it, isn't she?
And some of the women are getting Airbnbs near to Exeter Hospital and staying there for weeks before they're due to give birth. Now, firstly, that's incredibly expensive. Secondly, if you've already got other children, you can't do that. You can't leave them at home. But it is just appalling.
Yeah, really is bad. Tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Thank you both, and a very good morning to you. Just after 11 o'clock. Well, leading the news this morning, Dolly Parton is being remembered as a once-in-a-lifetime star after her death at the age of 80, following what her publicist described as a brief battle with cancer. The country music superstar was best known, of course, for hits including Jolene, 9 to 5 and I Will Always Love You. Sir Paul McCartney has called her a magnificent star, while Beyoncé has described her as a North Star for the industry. Landmarks across America have been lit up in pink in her honour, as fans are remembering not just her music, but her philanthropy, including a children's book programme which donated more than 300 million books. Here, households are facing higher energy bills this winter after Ofgem has raised its price cap by 3%. That's a 3-year high, 4% rather. From October, the average annual bill will rise by around £60 to £1,723, just as families start using more heating. Ofgem says high international gas prices are still driving energy costs in the UK, and the government says its cut to VAT on electricity has limited that rise, but analysts are already forecasting another increase in the new year. At least 14 newborn babies have sadly died after a fire broke out in a hospital in Pakistan. Officials say the blaze started in an air conditioning unit at a hospital in Islamabad before spreading through the maternity ward. One baby was rescued where 15 newborns were being cared for at the time. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has ordered an immediate inquiry with a report due within 24 hours. Canada has hit back at Donald Trump's latest tariffs, announcing counter-tariffs of up to 50% on a range of US goods. Ottawa says that the measures are a proportionate response after trade talks with Washington collapsed. The move covers around £15 billion worth of American products, from steel and furniture to tuna and cotton T-shirts. Well, we'll pull away from those stories for now and take you live to central London. Robert Jenrick is speaking for
Reform for Small Business event. But oddly enough, it took a Frenchman to give Britain its perfect self-description back in the 18th century. Facing defeat once again at the hands of the Royal Navy, a petulant revolutionary said, "Let Pitt then boast of his victory to his nation of shopkeepers." Naturally, we took that as the greatest compliment he had to offer. Britain was a nation of shopkeepers and of small workshops, and in many ways it still is. Small businesses are at the heart of our towns and of our economy. They employ 17 million people right across the country. When they prosper, we all prosper. And when they're struggling, it's a sign that something is going very badly wrong. Thanks to decades of neglect, many small businesses are on their knees right now. Surveys show that less than a fifth of Britain's small businesses are expecting to grow over the next 12 months, and almost a third are expecting to shrink or close altogether. And why is this? Well, the Tories pushed net zero without thinking about its effect on energy prices. They froze the VAT registration thresholds while inflation was running wild. They forced small businesses to shell out on accountants and waste their time with admin. They hiked corporation tax just after the pandemic that had devastated businesses and their reserves. Kemi Badenoch bragged about her plans to slash retained EU law, but then bottled it and dropped the sunset clause and kept the vast majority on the books. Mel Stride oversaw the loan charge, which battered small businesses and sole traders. Capital markets like AIM have withered away. Investors who might have financed businesses have been chased out of the country to cover for Rishi Sunak's own personal tax affairs. And the tax code, it grew by a quarter to almost 23,000 pages. After being booted out of office, the Tories passed the mantle to the Labour Party. Labour's assault on small businesses, the jobs tax, the inheritance tax, the burden of Angela Rayner's employment regulation is only making things much, much worse. And just this week, Andy Burnham has prepared the already scorched earth for more tax rises in the budget this autumn. This government doesn't know how businesses are built. They've not built them themselves, and frankly, I don't believe they even care for those who do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our message to small businesses is simple. Hold on, because help is on its way. Today, I'm setting out how a Reform UK government, led by Nigel Farage, will fix the mess left by the old parties with a new contract for small business that starts by helping you to raise money, to get going, to hire your first employees. Whether you grow your business into a scale-up or choose the freedom of continuing to work on your own, we will be there for you every step of the way. So we will unlock access to finance and mentoring to those just starting out by changing the rules to allow parents and grandparents to make modest, tax-favoured investments in family firms through seed investment schemes. Because starting a business shouldn't be dependent on owning a home or having very well-connected friends. And we will reform the rules for non-executive directors, so experienced people can mentor small businesses without risking a huge bill if it goes wrong. Where Labour are putting up regulatory barriers, Reform is going to tear them down. A Reform government will repeal and replace the silly GDPR rules that suffocate small businesses, and in particular, the tech sector. One study found a number that the number of new apps launched had fallen by half, partly as a result of this overburdensome regulation. Of course, reform is going to maintain important protections for personal privacy, but we will cut out the unnecessary and the burdensome red tape that has been ladled on in recent years. Our new legislation will be modelled on New Zealand's Privacy Act, which the EU still recognises, so trade continues unaffected, but which has substantially cut compliance costs for ordinary businesses and startups. Because a reformed government will get out of the way and let small companies build again, whether it's software or houses, you name it. We'll scrap the electric vehicle mandates for cars and for vans, letting businesses and white van men choose the vehicles they want to drive, that they think are right for them and their businesses. We'll make sure that the cost of fuel and energy isn't insurmountable, because we know it's such an important element of paying the day-to-day bills in a company. And we'll do that by ending the net zero policies that are driving up bills right now. We'll cancel the 5p rise in fuel duty that's coming down the line. And isn't John Healey conspicuously silent about that one? When you want to hire staff, we'll be there to help you. That's why we're the only party that has said unambiguously that we will abolish Rachel Reeves's job tax on British workers, and we'll fund that with that tax cut with a levy on migrant labour. So businesses can nurture homegrown talent without being undercut by foreign workers. Reform will never tire of putting British people first, and we will ensure that we back businesses that do the same every day of the week. Reform will provide apprenticeship wage credits and a retention bonus for the small businesses who take a chance on young British people, on people like my dad, whose apprenticeship taught him the skills he needed eventually to set up his own company and get going in life. The credit would save employers £4,700 every year. And the retention bonus, that will give workers an incentive to stay with the business that's trained them up, with a £2,000 bonus that's paid 2 years after the training if they remain with their employer who's invested in them. And we'll unwind Labour's anti-jobs legislation, ending the hiring freeze that came with Angela Rayner's so-called Employment Rights Act. When it comes to filing your taxes, we'll make it fairer and easier. We'll introduce a hard work bonus, scrapping income tax on overtime, so employees are properly rewarded when they go above and beyond. Now, this might not mean very much for people in the City of London, but let me tell you, this could be worth 700 quid a year to a distribution factory worker in Nottinghamshire. We'll raise the VAT threshold from 90,000 to 150,000, saving small companies hours of headaches and hundreds of pounds each year managing all the admin that goes with it, and crucially, removing the incentive to stay just below the registration threshold. We back ambitious people. That means 320,000 companies are going to be better off under reform overnight. We'll reverse Labour's inheritance tax, smash and grab on family farms and small businesses with property, enabling you to hand your business on to your children and your grandchildren, and end all those sleepless nights worrying about how it's going to play out. And today, I'm announcing a new approach for HMRC, the taxman. We've all been stuck waiting on the HMRC phone line, spending hours on hold, trying to give them money that you have earned, losing time that you'll never get back. It's enough to drive you mad. Small businesses spend £242 million hours and £25 billion doing their taxes every year. The taxman, meanwhile, he fails to answer millions of calls. It takes more than a month to reply to letters, and 2 years can pass to process a simple refund. There's one small business owner in Manchester who was handed a £2.85 billion tax bill, almost £3 billion. HMRC even sent collection agents to his house when they said he wasn't paying up. Of course, it turned out that they were wrong, and the real bill was £2,500. Did he get an apology? I bet he's still waiting for it. Last year, MPs were accusing HMRC of deliberately degrading its own services to force people onto the website. It's a disgrace. Frankly, it is offensive to working people, and I have had enough. So we will give HMRC a big incentive to actually provide proper customer service. So I'm announcing today that under a Reform government, if you spend more than half an hour waiting for HMRC to answer your call, you will get a £30 credit off your tax bill. If HMRC delay, well, they can repay. And to make sure that the staff actually hit their targets, we'll tie the pay of senior HMRC officials to their customer service performance. It's just fair. The taxman has been treating people trying to do their best to understand an unbelievably complicated tax system appallingly. As Chancellor, I'm going to do things differently to my predecessors. HMRC will send to me daily figures on waiting times until they fix it. Now, I'm a patient man, but if they test my patience, as they are testing the patience of millions of people across our country right now, they'll be fired. And there'll be no golden parachutes either. They will be waiting on hold for that for a very long time. Things are going to change under Reform. The Treasury is going to do things differently.
So that is Robert Jenrick, and we will go back to the press conference when some questions are answered. We've got in the studio as the broadcaster, a middle-aged babe magnet, as he likes to be known, Mr Mike Parry, and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Stephen Pound, you were groaning and grumbling during that speech. What did you particularly object to?
Because a lot of it was complete nonsense, in all honesty. When he actually talks about cutting taxes for this country but increasing them for the so-called migrant workers, well, half the doctors in the NHS are then going to have to be paying more tax. That's not particularly a good idea. And the other thing, when he talks about cutting tax on overtime, it means you can have separate identified pay in your pay packet, separate different tax codes. It's going to actually make the tax system more and more complicated.
Stephen, he's not the first politician to talk about British jobs, British workers. Your great admirer, Gordon Brown,
and that worked
famously said just that.
Yeah. And didn't that go
British jobs for British workers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
OK, we're just going to pause this very important economic discussion to go to an equally important story in Spain, where the world's largest tomato fight is taking place as the public play in tomato pulp during the annual La Tomatina Food Festival.
It's
gosh, who has to do their washing? That's what I'm worried about.
But what a waste of tomatoes.
Well, indeed. Do you think they put them on the pizzas?
I mean, a food shortage.
Well, I've got a glut on my allotment, actually, at the moment, my cherry tomatoes and my plum tomatoes.
Well, where are they?
Export them to Spain.
Why didn't you bring them in?
Well, had I but known that you'd like a Tom, I would have.
Well, no, we'd like to throw them at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This happens every year, and
the world's largest tomato fight. That suggests that
there are
this is
others.
something that's a popular thing to do.
But listen, shouldn't we have a bit of empathy here for local traditions? For instance, do you not think the Spanish, when they see the famous scenes of cheeses rolling down a hill and people chasing them and breaking their leg, right? They'd say, "Look at those mad English chasing cheese." So I've got a bit of empathy for local customs, and I would say get on with it.
Isn't this the country that dropped a donkey from a church steeple?
Well, they would have done a lot of times more if I hadn't rescued it. Yeah, I sent reporters out to Spain to rescue Blackie the donkey. To stop it from being thrown off the top of a tower. So,
God,
yes.
I love British journalism.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Spanish Inquisition 2.0.
Well, the problem was that 2 newspapers were after the donkey. We kidnapped it off another newspaper who'd had it and brought it home. So,
those were the days.
Exactly.
Those were the days.
Do you remember that famous thing when somebody chucked an egg at Harold Wilson and he said, well, it just goes to show you how well off this country is, people can afford to throw food away. In Spain, is an excellent and marvellous. We can chuck a tomato.
So, if you had a box of rotten tomatoes here, Stephen, who would you most like to throw them at? I don't mean necessarily in the studio, just in general. Who would be your target? Would it be maybe Robert Jenrick?
Oddly enough, I was going to say nobody in the studio, but I think Robert Jenrick deserves a wake-up call. And I think a cherry tomato in the boat race would do him a load of good.
Yeah, well, I'd throw him at Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell. I think they're the architects of, broken Britain today, going back all those years. I really would, honestly. I mean, Tony Blair's so smarmy, smiling, Bambi, got away with everything. He deserves a few rotten tomatoes in the gob, in my view.
Yeah.
Well, the intermission is finished.
Yes, and we're now going...
Finish your ice creams, people.
We're going to carry on talking about Robert Jenrick. So he also said that they will abolish the national insurance hike, which Rachel Reeves brought in, which I think was a breach of the manifesto.
I tell you, I wish Robert Jenrick had cut straight to the chase, right, and tell us that since this Labour government got in, 200,000 small or medium-sized businesses have closed. 200,000. Think of that. Think of that. And do you know why? Because of the tax,
insurance rise.
because of the power, and because of the cost of employing people to work in your business. It's an absolute scandal.
But this is yet another speech by a senior reform figure, which most of it was devoted to attacking the Conservatives who've not been in power for 2 years.
Why couldn't, he have told us that, for instance, I'm included in this, my business is crippled by having to send in my tax returns 4 times a year now. 4 times a year. Now, I can't do it myself. My accountant is on an absolute roller coaster of clients who are having to be handled 4 times a year. Just imagine the cost of that.
A lot of the stuff that Jenrick came out with was sort of populist without actually having any beef to it. When he says you actually get 30 quid off your tax if you're hanging on for more than half an hour. Can you imagine the hassle of actually saying, say, on this particular day, on this particular time, I was waiting for 30 minutes and they're going to get a rebate on my tax. Slagging off the tax people, it's not the best way to make friends if you're a putative Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Exactly, but that £30 is so pathetic. When you and I leave this studio, Stephen, and go to Wetherspoons across the road, 2 rounds later, we've got rid of £30.
£30 might be nothing to you, but to a small business owner who's worried about their tax bill and worried about how they're going to pay the different forms of tax, if they know that they are spending precious minutes on the phone waiting for HMRC to answer, and at the very least, if they get £30 off their tax bill, I think this is a good thing, because it will also incentivise them to...
It's nonsensical economics. I bought a fillet of beef last weekend at my butcher. It has now gone up from
But Mike, I think you're missing the point here. I think you're missing the point here.
You can't buy a joint of beef.
I think you're missing the point here. This is taxpayers' money. Very obviously, we can't afford to give huge amounts of rebates because the country needs the money. But it could be enough to force the kind of changes at HMRC to make them more efficient at answer the phone. That's the point of this, isn't it?
This is all about trying to...
How would you be able to prove you were hanging on the phone?
Because they record every single call from the moment you...
But the other thing is that the people who don't answer the phone don't get penalised. So what possible incentive is there? If you're working in a call centre or you're working for HMRC and you could be in Bangalore for all it matters, and you're told you don't pay that 30 quid. The company, the state pays the 30 quid. It's just a transfer.
Oh yes, but I'm sure if you never answered the phone and all your colleagues do, you're probably not going to last very long.
But can Mr. Jenrick address the big issue, and that is if we cut...
That's already happening, presumably.
If we cut the welfare bill, we can afford to cut the tax on businesses, and businesses will thrive, and they will employ people. Only this morning, another report came out saying there's this massive gap in the economy now between kids leaving school and starting their first job. It simply isn't happening anymore. It just is not happening. The jobs are not available. Right. I mean, that's what we've got to attack.
We're going to go back to the press conference now, because Mr. Jenrick is now taking questions from the media. GB News is there.
Small business owners get the support that they actually need. With respect to the increase in energy bills, look, this is going to be a very difficult period ahead. Households are being battered by energy price increases. Energy prices will have risen by 17% since April alone. My message to John Healey and Andy Burnham is very simple. Drop your net zero dogma. Do what Reform have proposed. Get rid of the green taxes and levies that have been ladled onto people's energy bills by stealth. If you do that, if you take our plan that Richard Tice and I have set out for months now, you will save the average household £200 off their energy bill. I cannot, for the life of me, understand why anyone would want to put net zero ideology above the interests of British people this winter, who are going to find life very, very tough. I've got Keith Bayes now from GB News.
Bayes, GB News. Mr. Jenrick, this is an ambitious shopping list. Tax cuts, deregulation, incentives to work. But how much will this package of measures actually cost? Can you give me an exact figure? What exactly replaces GDPR? You say a light touch. What does that look like? And what's your evidence this will create growth rather than simply leave the Treasury with a big bill? Thank you.
Look, I believe passionately that small businesses are the backbone of this country. If we do not support entrepreneurs to set up new businesses, to grow those businesses, to become the big businesses of the future, world-leading businesses in this country, then there's no future, frankly, for our economy. And I'm afraid that is the path that we're going down right now. Successive chancellors have battered businesses with tax rises, with increases in regulation, careless, cack-handed, and business people have had enough. Reform is going to fix that. And what I've set out today, if implemented by Andy Burnham, and look, I would welcome it if he did. Rachel Reeves was the copy and paste chancellor, so let John Healey take forward these proposals. But if they won't, we will. Mark my words, we will, and we'll do so rapidly under a Reform government. This will give the shot in the arm that our entrepreneurs and small businesses desperately need. With respect to our changes to GDPR, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are other countries around the world that have done this. Look at New Zealand. They have created a system which is sufficiently light touch that it does not place all these burdens upon small businesses. You don't have to be constantly clicking accept or reject every time you go onto a website and they ask you about the cookies, but which still has EU adequacy so that you can trade freely and share data with businesses in the European Union. For some reason, what did our country do? We chose to gold plate the crazy Brussels regulations, and that has been an immense cost to British businesses. Well, enough is enough. Reform is going to do things differently. That's going to be gone. And we're going to make sure that we protect people's privacy, but we also help businesses to get on, employ people, create goods and services, create wealth. Nothing wrong with being successful. That's what a Reform government is going to do. I've got Faye Brown now from Sky News.
Hi, it seems like you don't really want to be drawn on how much all of this is going to cost.
No, I'm very happy to say.
So, Robert Jenrick there, the Treasury spokesperson for Reform UK, continuing that press conference, having made a wide range of announcements about how the party would support small businesses were they to enter government. One particular interesting policy announced there, Andrew, is that parents and grandparents could invest up to £250,000 in their child's business and get tax relief from that. I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah,
it encourages people to pass on their wealth while they're still alive and have a stake in the next generation.
No, I think it's terrific. And it also cements the family, which is a good
cements
thing.
the family, builds the family unit, but also some pensioners who've got a £2 million house, might have to start paying wealth taxes and all that. Now, they'd rather take the money of the house and give it to their grandchildren to invest in business, which then would promote growth, rather than hand it over to a government who seem to put all tax into welfare.
And one of the big prohibitions on setting up a business is the cost of borrowing money. And if you can get it from the bank of mum and dad, or bank of granny and grandpa, what a great idea.
And grandpa and grandma are getting a tax benefit themselves by by putting it in.
It's a win-win, isn't it?
It's a win-win idea. It redistributes wealth, but in the right way, not the wrong way. You know?
I think it's really clever.
Wealth at all. Of course it does.
It really hands it on from one rich family to another.
But what it does is it releases that capital now, and we need it in the economy now, rather than waiting. Because people live so long now, which is obviously a good thing in itself, but in the past, people would receive their inheritance in their 20s or 30s at just the time that they needed it. Whereas now, I mean...
40s.
I'm 44. Until just under a year ago, I still had a grandparent left. I had all my grandparents left when I was in my 30s. So, of course, my parents still haven't received their inheritance.
The whole basis of the National Health Service is predicated on men working till they were 65 and dying when they were 75, and, of course, women not working. But one of the key things in that, I thought one of the devils in the detail type thing, was talking about cutting the welfare bill. The majority item in the welfare bill is pensions. So when you talk about cutting welfare, you're talking about cutting pensions. So
no, he's talking about PIP. He's talking about personal independence.
We're talking about something different. So moving on from the small business proposals. Talking about proposals by the RPPR.
Do you not like that proposal, the small business proposal, to involve the family in the business? You don't?
I think it's very fortunate if you've got £250,000. Most of the people I used to represent in my constituency wouldn't even know what to...
but we want wealth creators to create wealth, because then they can employ people.
A lot more than £250,000.
I mean, what was the average price for a house in your old constituency?
It's about £60,000.
Rubbish.
Not now,
600,000.
Just an order of magnitude. Don't worry about it.
I just think what I paid for my first...
Doesn't it worry you, Labour MP and their numeracy skills?
Exactly.
Are you Diane Abbott here? Are you Diane Abbott here? Remember she was... Do you remember she talked about how much the police, extra police would have cost? 8,000, 8,000. Right. So that's quite a lot, and if it's all paid off, they could take £200,000 out of the property and lend it to their children and get tax relief on them.
They can do that now. Of course they can.
But they won't get tax relief on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Are you sure they don't?
They don't.
No, they don't. Absolutely not.
No, this is an imaginative proposal. Why can't you bring it into yourself, Poundy, just for once to say, Reform, we've got something right?
Well, if you do that, then where does the money get made up from?
It doesn't get made up from anywhere.
Because you've got to take it from one pot.
No, because it's going
to
create new companies, which are the lifeblood of small business, are the lifeblood of this country. It's going to create growth.
The idea that if you cut taxes, you encourage entrepreneurism. You get people. There's got to be a balance somewhere. If you simply take money away from the state and give it to the individual, which is what you're doing,
passing down generationally. A mate of mine, his daughter went to him and said, "I'm going to start a handbag business." So he remortgaged a property for £100,000 and gave it to his daughter, who's now running a very successful handbag business. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's good luck to
bag it when you can.
Yeah. How many people are in that position?
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to return briefly to Spain because Mike and Stephen were so excited by this tomato fight. Tomatoes flying everywhere. It is described as the world's biggest tomato fight. I suspect it's the world's only tomato fight, actually.
Exactly,
There we are. Here we are again. If you listen on the radio, they are literally pelting each other with tomatoes. I think it is the weirdest tradition, but there we are. What do they do with all the tomatoes afterwards?
Well, the streets
a lot
are
of tomato soup.
I think this is actually a crafty scheme by the Madrid Laundrette Society.
Could be.
There we
are.
On the story.
And do you notice something? Most of the people in the tomato fight are men.
Well,
women have got more sense.
Women are more sensible.
They're going to do the washing.
Women are more sensible.
Well, let's end it there and let's have some proper news with San Francis.
The right organic San Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 11:30, Dolly Parton is being remembered today as a once-in-a-lifetime star after her death at the age of 80. Representatives say the country music icon died after facing a brief battle with cancer. Tributes have poured in around the world, with Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mick Jagger and Beyoncé all honouring her music, generosity and legacy. Here, households are facing higher energy bills this winter after Ofgem raised its price cap by 4% to a 3-year high. The average annual bill will rise by £60 to £1,724, just as families start using more heating. At least 14 newborn babies have died after a fire broke out in a hospital in Pakistan. Officials say the blaze started in an air conditioning unit at a hospital in Islamabad before spreading through the maternity ward. Sainsbury's is offering 10,000 work experience places to help tackle the youth unemployment crisis. Andy Burnham says employers must help close the gap between the classroom and the workplace, and is urging more businesses to follow Sainsbury's lead. And after weeks of heat and drought, parts of England and Wales are now being warned to brace for thunderstorms, hail and possible flooding. The Met Office says there is a small chance of fast-flowing or deep floodwater causing a danger to life. Those are the latest headlines for now. Well, Andrew did mention I may have forgotten my shorts, but someone in the studio has forgotten something even more important: deodorant.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, just to clarify, Sam hasn't forgotten his shorts. He is wearing shorts. He's forgotten his trousers, so it's not as indecent as you may be imagining right now.
There has been a bit of a whiffy aroma in this studio, but it's nothing to do with Miriam or myself. I think it's more to do with the newsreader.
I never signed up. It's just reality TV, because if it is, I don't like it. Anyway, let's welcome Mark and Emily for a preview for your programme at 12 o'clock.
There's been a lot going on in your show.
Yeah.
I mean, look behind us at the moment.
Bizarre festival, that is, the Tomato. And say, look, most of them are men, of course. Of course they are.
Well, yes, I mean, I wouldn't want to risk it. The stampede.
No.
Probably end up being trodden all over. That does sometimes happen at this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We were looking at the bulls yesterday, weren't we?
Surely they could do something a bit more productive with these tomatoes.
Yeah, do you think they're rotting?
A nice bolognese sauce.
Yeah.
Do you think they're past the best?
Sauce. Yeah.
A little soup or something. Well, we're going to be talking about the Great British Migrant Crime Cover-Up.
Yes, quite right too.
Today, victims of families, families of victims. 2 crimes from foreign nationals, particularly sexual assault and even murder, are writing to the Justice Secretary to say, stop blocking the release of this data. If there's nothing to hide, you just publish it.
I think it's extraordinarily tin-eared of this government. They're talking about going to court to stop this information being released.
Yeah, I mean, it's actively blocking it now.
Yeah.
After previously saying that they would actually look to release information on foreign national offenders committing often some horrific crimes. We're going to list, just in the last year, just a snapshot of some of the crimes and the offenders. It's by no means an exhaustive list, but it gives you an indication of the fact that these crimes are being committed and coming to courts now on certainly a weekly basis, but it seems like every other day
it does.
We've got another horrific case.
And often they're horrific crimes against women.
Yeah, and it
these men with these medieval attitudes to
women. A lot of complete stranger rape, which is what makes women and girls feel so afraid.
Yeah.
Of course, there has always been rape and sexual assault within the home, hideous as it is. But the sort of grabbing a woman or a girl off the street, off the beach, in a town centre, in the back of a taxi.
Yeah.
This does seem to be increasing, but the government does not necessarily want us to know the extent.
And it comes just days after the government moved to issue these pamphlets to those foreign nationals arriving in the country, illegal immigrants, effectively, telling them how to behave around women,
telling them that rape is illegal in this country.
Yeah,
astonishing.
Child rape is illegal.
Oh. Well, that's a very strong story. Very interesting.
Yes, well, that's all coming up at midday, but plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom. And, of course, we've just been covering that Reform UK press conference. But next we're going to be looking at whether or not the government should tax pensioners more to take the burden off young people. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A thundery day today. We do have warnings in force through today and tomorrow for parts of England and Wales. That's where we see intense rainfall falling in a short period of time. There is a chance of some surface water flooding. That's all being brought about by low pressure down to the south of the UK, throwing up this wet air, but also more humid air. So wherever you are going to notice the humidity and warmth through today. It's England and Wales, though, where we've got the greatest chance of heavy downpours throughout today, particularly for more central areas of England and North Wales into this evening, where the showers may linger for a time. There will be some brightness into the afternoon, a bit more than we've had this morning, and it will feel warm in the sunshine, particularly across more southern areas where temperatures could climb to 29 degrees. It's going to be a pretty dry day for much of Scotland, though, as we're further north from this area of low pressure. So for the far north of Scotland, it's a fine end to the day. Temperatures around 18 or 19 degrees. Northeastern England as well, getting a away with quite a lot of dry weather. A bit more of an easterly wind here though, so it will feel a little bit fresher at the coast. But as you can see, it's parts of North Wales, central England in particular, where there's the greatest chance of heavy downpours. That brings the risk of lightning as well as hail and some surface water flooding throughout this evening. Now there's a bit of respite to come overnight tonight before the next batch of rain pushes up by Thursday morning. So for many of us, it's going to be a dry and humid night. For wherever you are going to notice the humidity overnight. Temperatures holding up in the high teens. We could see some mist and fog developing as well rurally by Thursday morning. But the rain does return through Thursday morning for England and Wales. There's another warning in forceful thunderstorms, again for that chance of surface water flooding as well as lightning and some quite large hail through the afternoon. The rain may last quite a while as it pushes into North Wales, central England through Thursday, and we could see some quite gusty winds. But again, it's looking like another dry day further north. Bye-bye.
Your views.
Just to be clear, my viewers are frustrated.
Your voice.
Lots of you guys getting in touch.
Your perspective.
Before these two will start fisticuffs.
Your issues.
What is the official party line?
Your concerns.
Do you agree with that?
Your show.
Are you keeping up? Good.
I'm so excited to be back this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Jubes & Co. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 19 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, we've just heard from Reform's Treasury spokesman Robert Jenrick. It's his plan, Reform's plan, to save small businesses, and there are some statistics suggesting up to 200,000 small businesses have closed since Labour came to power. So we're going to speak to Craig Bowman, who's the Executive Director for the Federation of Small Businesses. Mr Bowman, good morning.
Good morning.
What did you make of what Mr Jenrick had to say? Was there stuff in there that was cheering to you?
I mean, the diagnosis is definitely there. They quoted some of our statistics in there about the numbers of small businesses wanting to grow over the next year, or thinking they will, which is quite low, 1 in 6. And then those who are expecting to either sell, shrink or close, which is up to as many as 1 in 3. And that is completely correct. So the question is this going to, resolve that small business issue? And the answer is, of course, no, because the Reform's not in power. So let's look at the policies. Things like turning around HMRC. I think that was probably the most positive thing we heard today, which was turning HMRC to be actually responsive to small businesses when they call. 3 in 5 small businesses that we speak to say that HMRC actually raises their personal stress levels because of how they deal with them. They can't get in contact. They're held online. They're sent online, but they're held on the phone. They can't get through. HMRC has a target responding to a tax inquiry within 15 days, and it doesn't meet those, and it knows it doesn't. So turning that around, making HMRC a vehicle for growth rather than just a tax collector, is really, really good. Anything that can bring down 44 hours per year of tax administration that every small business owner on average does, costing, £4,500 each, 25 billion across the economy, absolutely fill your boots. On the other things, the VAT threshold is probably the second highlight, which is we have loads of small businesses who get towards 90,000 and then bunch up and don't go over it because they fall into a very complicated tax. They say VAT is actually the most complicated tax that they administer. So, I think the diagnosis is right. The problems are right to focus on. Absolutely.
And what do you make of the idea that Reform UK put forward that parents and grandparents could invest up to £250,000 of their own wealth in a child's business and receive tax benefits from that? Could that release some much-needed capital into small businesses?
I think financing for growth is a really interesting area to look at, because right now, if you talk to small businesses right now, they're not really looking, many of them, for this cash for growth. They're looking to cash to survive. So I think we have probably some bigger macro things to work on first before then turning back and looking at things like the British Business Bank, for example, all these tax, all the tax efficient schemes to try and drive capital into into businesses to say, right, where I'm going to be in a year, where I'm going to be in 5 years. I own one shop, I'm going to expand to a second. On my sense from the Small Business Committee right now is they're looking at how to keep going rather than to how expand. So I guess that's for a phase 2, having sorted out some of the big cost issues that are facing small businesses right now, they can then turn to actually think about the future and to grow. That 1 in 6 being such a small figure who are looking to grow, we need to get that up. And that's absolutely. I think costs are preventing growth of that growth conversation.
And what figure Mr. Bennett, what figure would you put on the number of small businesses that have closed since Labour came to power? I read some figure the other day, I think up to 200,000. I don't know if that would be tally with your own estimate.
Well, the full population is 5.7 million. We shrank. I think the figures that we have figures coming out in, I think it's November time each year, which is the assessment. We've gone down from 6 million to 5.7 million since the pandemic. So 2020. Yeah. So that is now 6 years. Now that is a fact. That is indisputable. Now, what will be interesting is it's kind of. We fell from 6 million to 5.5, and then 5.5 is now eked up to 5.7. But there are some queries about the data. So I would say in November we'll have a better kind of handle for what's happened in 2025 and 2026.
All right, we'll look forward to that.
Indeed. Craig Beaumont, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. That's Craig Beaumont, the Executive Director for the Federation of Small Businesses.
Now, still ahead, tributes are pouring in for the great Dolly Parton as we look at live pictures of Dollywood in Tennessee. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. It's hot across central parts of Europe, especially across Italy next few days. Meanwhile, thundery downpours will affect large parts of France as well as central areas. And we've got some showery rain pushing through the Canary Islands, but the more unsettled weather will move into Portugal and Spain during Thursday and Friday. Heavy rain, strong winds, as thunderstorms across France and Germany continue. And it's going to be very unsettled through central and western parts of Europe as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In the public sector, buildings like schools and hospitals lack adornment, can be very clunky, can be very ugly, and they don't bear comparison with their equivalents, let's say, from the Victorian age. What do you think of that thesis?
I think, unfortunately, it's entirely correct. I mean, we can see it in some of the examples you talked about today. The one that really sticks in my mind, really there's two. Ones you see kind of every day, or certainly used to, post boxes. And phone boxes, and in fact, for a third, water fountains. If you see the new water fountains in London, they're these strange plastic water droplets. We didn't used to build things like this. In fact, the water fountains themselves were once ornate. You had creatures in them, you had actual care taken over them.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Now, you don't want to miss this guest because she was once Britain's longest-serving female prisoner, dubbed the Black Widow. But Linda Calvi has since swapped life behind bars for life as a best-selling crime writer. My goodness. So you've done...
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about, because some people might not know about you, but you were dubbed as the Black Widow. Why is that?
I was dubbed as the Black Widow. The police said because all of the men in my life either ended up dead or in prison.
I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny.
No, it isn't. But that is me. And since I've been home, I mean, I went to prison for a crime I did commit. I got 7 years, and I deserved that sentence.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
we have to go back to 1964, when Congress decided to name Washington's National Cultural Center in honor of John F. Kennedy, the president, of course, who had been recently assassinated. As a result, his name was emblazoned on the building. Today, the centre is home to a vast concert hall, as well as an opera house and a theatre. This is the site of cultural events, televised events, gala dinners. The centre is seen as a bastion of liberalism here in Washington, D.C. So what happened when Donald Trump became president for a second time in 2025? Well, in February, his second month in office, he decided to sack many members of the board of the centre behind me and replace it with his allies.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, across the summer, cadet camps provide thousands of young people with opportunities to develop new skills, build confidence and take part in a wide range of experiences. Jack Carson has this report.
Shooting for the stars. On military bases in Lincolnshire, cadets have been spending the summer learning new skills. They're part of a growing force of 13,000 across the East Midlands and 137,000 nationally. From first aid to drone flying, they're challenging the trend of youth disengagement.
But how is it? What do we take away? What's the big highlights of this week?
This week, the Minister for Veterans and People, Calvin Bailey, visited cadet camps to meet those taking part.
I see you were the guys setting up the ambush on our way in.
Oh, no, that's not. But with graduate job vacancies dropping to 50% in the past year and more than 1 million young people not in employment, education or training, can the armed forces provide them with an opportunity?
What the kids learn here is leadership. They learn how to manage other people. They learn how to talk and to communicate. And increasingly, all the things that they're doing for fun, we're giving them qualifications for. I'll take as many of them as we can into the military, but you know what? Society will benefit from a lot more robust and resilient young people that benefit from the education and the experience that they have being up around other amazing young people.
The government says it's committed £70 million to grow the cadet forces 30% by 2035, extending the original recruitment target a further 5 years. That money includes buying immersive technology.
And simulators like this start as fun, but they're an investment in skills, be that communication, teamwork or air capability. Ultimately, they're aiming to give cadets career-enhancing opportunities.
Cadets Zach Damji and Matilda Hurd explained why they wanted to get involved.
I already had an interest in joining the Royal Air Force as a pilot. I just didn't know quite how to get to that stage. The experiences, which was definitely given by our volunteers, has really taught a lot to not just myself but all the other cadets in the organisation. And it's actually given us the opportunity to develop and grow into very capable young people.
I was looking for something more interesting to do. Coming from a small town with not much to actually do there, I was looking for something to broaden my horizons. The opportunities that you can get through cadets is something that I never thought I would have even imagined as a young child. But here I am with all these different experiences that have shaped me as a person and who I've grown up to be.
Whether it's increasing confidence or learning leadership skills and employability, these cadets are putting their future first. Jack Carson, GB News, Lincolnshire.
Jack Carson.
I think going into the military is a really good career. You
Absolutely.
can learn a trade, engineering, doctor, medical, all sorts of things.
Absolutely, and graduate job vacancies are dropping like flies, aren't they? It's maybe it's a much more secure career, although of course comes with its own danger, but you are doing something very, very good for the country.
There's also another problem that the standard of accommodation for people in the military is abysmal.
Yeah.
And it was a broken promise of Keir Starmer, because he did say he was going to fix it, and they haven't, because there's no money in the defence budget.
Indeed. Well, we do know that the armed forces are understaffed, and if the government could be convinced to find some more money and increase the size of the army, then I think it sounds like there'd be plenty of young people willing to give it a go.
John Healey, the Chancellor, resigned from Keir Starmer's government as Defence Secretary because of the unwillingness of Starmer to commit to spending far more money on defence. So as Chancellor, is that the deal he's done with Burnham?
Well, I wonder. And in that budget in October the 28th, I would imagine we will hear something about defence. I'm not sure how he could get away with staying silent on that subject.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, of course, it's Good Afternoon Britain with Mark and Emily. Miriam and I will see you tomorrow. See you then.
Goodbye.
On the show today, the Great British Migrant Crime Cover-Up. The Justice Secretary is being urged to stop blocking the release of migrant data by victims and their families.
Yes, multiple victims have been in touch with the government, writing a letter wanting that data out there. We've got a compiled list for you, just a tiny sample actually of the very significant numbers of crimes now being committed by foreign nationals here in the UK.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome back to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's warm and humid for many of us today, but low pressure is moving in, and that will give heavy downpours, even some very lively thunderstorms. In fact, we're starting the day with heavy showers moving through parts of central and eastern England. This line of showery rain extending through northwest England into Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and it's progressing north. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise through the Midlands, parts of Wales and the south, other thunderstorms will develop into the afternoon, interspersed by some sunshine, and it will feel warm in the sunshine, temperatures up to the mid or even high 20s, staying largely dry but fresher to the north and northeast of Scotland. Plenty of sunshine for Shetland and Orkney, barely a drop of rain here. And we keep a fine end to the day for many parts of Scotland, generally northeastwards of Glasgow. But we do have this area of potentially thundery rain moving into southern and central Scotland as the day progresses. Showers easing off for a time across Northern Ireland, but this is the area where there is a thunderstorm warning. Parts of Wales into Northern England, the Midlands, East Anglia, because of the risk of large hail, frequent lightning, torrential rain. We're talking about 50 millimetres in places in just a few hours. That could cause some serious impacts, despite the fact that we've been so lacking in rainfall recently. More heavy downpours move into the south overnight, and to start things off on Thursday, a warm and muggy start to the day here. And it's going to be a cloudy start for many parts of the UK on Thursday itself. We follow the track of this line of potentially thundery rain as it moves through central parts of the UK, albeit slowly, and some places again could see more than 50 millimetres through the day accumulating, and that amount of rain could cause flash flooding. Another thunderstorm warning in force. Quieter for Scotland, just a few showers, drying up in the far south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway of the year so far.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this brand new McClure Fusion could be yours. We'll also boost your bank account too, with a further £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like.
For a chance to win, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First of all, say welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 26th of August. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Mark White. The government is being accused of covering up the extent of crimes committed by foreign nationals. The families of victims are demanding the government stop blocking the release of migrant crime data.
Well, we've seen a number of horrific sexual offences and murders committed by migrants in the last few years, and yet the government is blocking data being released. I'll bring you the details shortly.
Millions of British households will face the highest energy charges in 3 years this winter as the energy price cap is raised for a second time in just 3 months. Now, this was what the Prime Minister said only last month.
But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
As the CIA director flies to Moscow for secret talks, Andy Burnham has been warned that Britain faces Russian retaliation over UK support for Ukraine. It's reported security chiefs have told the Prime Minister to be prepared for a direct response from Vladimir Putin.
Birmingham is set to become England's first 20-mile-per-hour